Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 150 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Chavantone.
So I just realized I went through 6 away from 3 today. It's pretty cool. But what's not pretty cool, before the show, Thomas called Chick-fil-A just another sandwich.
And the man calling it just another sandwich, we have Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
Look, it's good, but I'm not traveling across town to get the sumbitch.
I traveled 2 states away to go retrieve me a Chick-fil-A sandwich.
It's good. You know what I like more than the sandwiches?
You had a delivery. You had free delivery.
I did. I didn't want it to ruin my dinner. What I like more than the sandwiches...
That is what you call dinner. A Chick-fil-A sandwich.
What I like more than the sandwiches is the waffle fries.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know why. I'm a potato guy. You know those memes or whatever they put out where they're like... You gotta throw one out, and it'll show like pizza, wings, burger, or fries. Mm-hmm. I most definitely fries would be one of my keepers.
Yeah,
it's the most versatile food ever.
Yes.
Potato.
Yes.
So, had you said I'll bring you a bucket of fries, I might have been able to skate on that. But sandwich. I'm glad LC got one. I'm glad you got one. I'm happy for you guys, but I wasn't into it.
You know how actually versatile the potato is?
You could do anything with it.
You have a family member that had actually lost 20 pounds doing a potato diet.
Which
What?
Your cousin Ryan. He ate nothing but potatoes, and he lost weight. That's real. It's actually real.
No comment.
You can't pick your family, but
I love cousin Ryan. I love him to death.
That's actually a genius idea, though, because if you think about it, imagine all the ways you can eat a potato.
He's anti-keto. He's like, I'm going all carbs. I'm going no protein, no fats, all carbs. Lost 20 pounds.
He looked Atkins in the eyeballs and flipped him off. He said, absolutely not.
All this research, all these attributes, no, carbs in your body.
Carb load. No, that's actually a pretty good idea.
Oh, Lord.
It's just going on. I mean, if you think about it, though, if you just ate one thing, you would basically burn yourself out, eat less, and then, eating would only be, a survival mechanism. I believe that I could lose probably 15 pounds eating nothing but bacon. It'd take me a while to get tired of eating bacon, but at some point, it just becomes me and the bacon, survival mode, and I'll stop eating it so much for enjoyment and just eat to live. So I sound logic in my opinion. So today we have the UFC Fight Night this weekend, headlined by Curtis Blades and Alexander Volkov. Guys, if you haven't looked at this card, you should be excited. I know last week's card got a lot of flack. I thought it was still enjoyable to watch, but you kind of missed the big names a little bit. If you're looking for the big names are on this card. We obviously have to talk about how Mr. Shackelford did last weekend, and then talk a little bit about Long Gone Summer, the documentary that was basically all about Mark McGwire, and talk a little bit about baseball. Mr. LC has a few complaints about the MLB, and then we should be able to put a bow on it. Oh, also, I have to tell you guys, I've been watching a new television show.
Oh, God.
All right. Before we get to any of that, though, Long Gone Summer. Guys, 2-hour, 30 for 30 on last night. Talked about the 1998 home run race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. We've basically been hitting on every 30 for 30 that's been going on during quarantine. Guys, what were your thoughts?
It was okay. Didn't love it. I mean, one can only watch home run highlights so long before it becomes the same thing over and over again.
What?
And
dude, I could watch 12 hours of home run highlights.
The whole point of it was home runs saved baseball.
I know, and it was great, and it's very great that came out yesterday. No, not today, we're not have a season at all. So it's fantastic timing. But I don't know, it wasn't bad. I liked it a lot. It wasn't bad, but it was one of the more ESPN knew what it had that she was safe with it. And this is what I think happened. What was it now? 4 weeks ago. So 4 weeks ago they had the Last Dance, and that was when they knew the mask was just gonna love. Probably the best opportunity there is. Some people will like it, controversial in some ways, but that would make it better. So they knew they had that. Then they had what was the one called? Lance.
Yeah.
What was it called? Lance.
The cheater.
The cheater.
Yeah,
And
definitely the worst one out of.
No, it was one ball, two wheels. That's so good a little bit. One ball, two wheels.
Oh, brutal.
That was great. Okay.
All right. So what you were saying?
So then they have the Lance one that they knew not a lot of people would like, people would watch, and make controversial and drive the ratings. And then they had Be Water, which is one that told a story about people about basically a character in real life, and people have kind of like a continuous story of. And people like that one. I mean, this one is kind of one of the novel ones. Then they had this one that they knew nobody would really hate. We wouldn't really push it at all. So some people were going to really like it. Some people were going to love it.
Hand up.
Especially. Most people would enjoy it, and nobody pissed off about it. That's the end of the 5-show thing. I think that they did it on purpose so they had good taste in the mouth going off of the 36.
See, I thought that this documentary kind of towed the line of getting a little like, you know how the Jordan documentary, you watched it and you felt, man, I feel a little dirty watching this. Like Mike Wilbon's on here dropping the F-bomb. And like, you'd have like these random guys that you just don't expect to be cussing. They towed the line whenever they showed the why do you need Viagra when we got wood? Remember the sign?
That was hilarious.
So that was hilarious. And like, they towed the line of being like, yes, we're going to actually go down this road. Like, whenever I saw that, I thought, all right, here's where we're going to start taking the turn down the road where, hey, we're going to say some controversial stuff. This was just kind of ease you into it. But that never really came. They just like told the story and then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, both guys were on steroids probably.
Well, Leighton, you said you didn't see the last 15 minutes of it. The last 15 minutes is where all the steroids
That's all they do. It's just bam. It's like, basically they pinned all the steroids on Barry Bonds.
Well, so
I read that today.
here's what's wild to me. Like I remember the season. I loved baseball was my favorite sport until I started wrestling. Don't know if you guys knew that.
I didn't know
I
that.
wasn't too bad. I was always a third baseman. I could hit okay. I had one very bad year in Little League.
How many years did you play?
My whole life. I mean, Diamond 5 up until high school.
So we could roughly say you played 10 years of baseball, had one bad season, so we could start doing the hot corner with Mr. Shackelford.
Well, no, I don't know.
And you just break down baseball.
I had some good coaches, but it's like football. Like I wasn't terrible at football. I started every year I was supposed to start. I don't know that much about football, okay? I was a lineman. You said hike. I hit a dude. When you're third base, you know, you back up the pitcher, you run after things, you just make sure nothing gets by you because the dude in left field's always the worst guy on the team. That's probably not true. Right field's probably the worst.
Yeah,
dude
right
on the
field.
team. I don't know a ton. I probably know more than the casual guy, but I don't know like you guys know. So back to my Little League experience, I had one bad season where like it was so bad, guys. The team we were on, I won't say the business. I'll say the business. It was called Top Gun, I think. It was like a car restoration thing.
Time out. How in the world were you bad on a baseball team that was named Top Gun?
Listen, this is why. I don't know what happened in this time period between in this man/coach/business owner's life, but a couple games into the season, he quit. Him and his son quit. We had one coach and his son, and our team just wasn't very good. I don't think I hit the ball all year. I remember just going back to the dugout bawling, and I was like a 7th grader, 6th grade going into 7th. I was like so frustrated, and like I don't remember getting in it. The coach was a nice guy, but I think at that point I was so happy when we lost our tournament game. When we lost our tournament game, and I think my team, the Diamond before, I'm pretty sure that was the year we won the championship. So like I came from some solid teams. I came from a championship year to now we're turkeys. I was so happy. I didn't even play the next season. My favorite sport at this time is still my favorite sport. Did not play a year. Then this summer happened, the home run race. We got a new puppy that summer. We named him Big Mac.
Of course you did.
Poor bastard got hit by a car later in the winter. Didn't make it that long. I don't even think he was a year old.
Kind of do that Big Mac's career.
Yeah, it's kind of like Big Mac's
Yeah,
career.
it kind of was. Well, you can't say that. He played a long time. What I'm saying is, that whole documentary, they kind of skated the line, like they didn't really touch it, and then they bring up the Andro. They bring up Andro. Shout out to Muscle Tech. They show the Muscle Tech bottle. I remember looking in GNC mags and just being like, I need to get me some of this shit, because that's about the time I started lifting weights too. But they kind of got there, and like, if you don't know anything about testosterone or those Andro, I was too young at the time, but word on the street was those early forms of those Andro things, they were legit. Like, you would get big. There's a thing out now called SARMs that I know we know of, and I have a friend in the workout community he says, hey, you need to go out and buy a bunch of SARMs. I said, why? He goes, because they fucking work. And they haven't figured out exactly what's making them work. So before they get off the shelves, before they're illegal, go get them. That's how Andro and that stuff was at that time. Now, you couldn't buy HGH over the counter, obviously, but that stuff would work. I remember lifting weights at this time, and my buddy's mom was so pissed at him because he wanted to get creatine. And my buddy, dude, he's one of those dudes that looks like he doesn't work out. He'll go do curls for a week. He looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He wanted creatine so bad, and his mom wouldn't let him get it. And she'd be like, that's that stuff Mark McGuire's on. And like, so the supplements thing, they just didn't know it was a new thing back then. And then the documentary goes on. It's a feel-good documentary, and I think that's kind of goes to baseball. Baseball's a feel-good game. They don't want to talk about that shit. They don't want to talk about Babe Ruth was probably doing coke and banging hookers in the outfield between bat, you know what I mean? They don't talk about that. They talk like he's the greatest dude on earth. So then at the very end, they hit the record immediately. Oh, this happened. You guys are absolutely right. You know who got hit the absolute... There's two people in this documentary I've almost felt bad for. One I feel bad for. One, for some reason, it's instilled in me that I just don't like the guy. One, which they called him Junior Griffey. I didn't know that. I just always called him Ken Griffey Jr. But I actually watched the home run derby before that, and they called him Junior Griffey the whole time. So... you got Junior Griffey, Ken Griffey Jr., whatever you want to call him. I legitimately felt bad for him. He was largely known as a clean dude who started that home run race with McGuire, and they're like, Griffey's the guy, and then guess what happens? He got fatigued.
Yes.
You can't hit that many home runs the rest of the season if you're not on the special sauce. So then it moves to Sammy. The other guy, you're right,
that's
man.
The Big Mac sauce.
They should have called it the Big Mac sauce.
That would have been awesome advertisement.
The other dude,
just go, you know what, we call this Big Mac sauce.
I don't know. I don't know if that company's still in business, but I hope they got a spot. I hope people Googled Muscle Tech, Androstein, whatever.
It's probably going on eBay right now for like $400 a tote.
I want to say the other thing Hydroxycut was the other thing they made that was real big at the time.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The other person, Barry Bonds, dude. Again, before they played that, they played the '96 Home Run Derby and the 2000 Home Run Derby, and Bonds was in... I think Bonds won the 96 one. I forget how they played him, but Bonds won one, I think. That dude just got hate. It was just like, it was okay, these two dudes did it. Bud Selig didn't give a shit. Everybody knew it. And then just like 3 years later... the dude's the enemy of the state. Everybody hates him. Nobody has a good word about Barry Bonds. He just did the same shit everybody else was doing.
Yeah, and I think that there's a reason for that. I think that, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, like, without the steroids, they're like all-star level guys, like bottom tier all-star level guys. Mark McGuire without the sauce was the best player in baseball.
Did you?
And then he hops on the sauce, and then he becomes from another planet, dude. And I think that's why he gets so much hate, because it was a cheat code before he was on the sauce. Now he's on the sauce, and it's like, this guy is unreal. Like, you look up some of his stats, like 73 home runs in a season. Like, he had like an on-base percentage of 500 one season.
His rookie year, 49 home runs.
From Mark McGuire?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's insane.
That stood for 30 years.
Yeah, it just got broke this last year.
And he looked like a skinny guy. I hate to tell you guys, 6'5", 215 is not a small man.
No.
Now, They went from showing him in Oakland. They went from showing him in Oakland at 6'5", 215 to immediately showing him walking up to the plate. And I think the guy even said, "Oh, it's Casey at bat," which is the famous poem or whatever it is, Casey at bat. And he looks big, but I would guess he probably never got bigger in 250, 260. So you're talking a guy that already later in his life was going to get bigger, which now he's still a big guy, but he's probably in his mid-60s, right?
Right, 50s probably.
Yeah. I mean, he was 18 in like 1986. So he's at least 18 years older than me.
No, he's probably 30. Yeah, he's got to be 30.
So, I mean, he's 55, working into his 60s.
And he still looks good.
Obviously, he's going to be smaller now than he was then. But, guys, it wasn't all steroids. I'm fine with it. I don't give a shit. Put an asterisk by the name. Put him in the Hall of Fame.
You have to.
They saved baseball that year. To finish my story, I played one more season of baseball. I didn't play my 7th grade year. I liked it so much, and I just was like, man, I really want to at least finish up. I went ahead and played another year, had some very good coaches. We didn't even win the championship. We lost our first round in the playoffs, but I had fun. I didn't play in high school because I was a little scared of the pitchers. So,
once they started throwing gas, I got out of there.
I wasn't too terrible, but I was afraid I wasn't going to make the team. So there were some other yuppies that played that went ahead and tried out for the team and made the team, and they're like, you should have made it. Everybody that tried out made the team.
Oh, that's baseball.
I didn't know that. Well, I was just like, well, I don't want to get hit by a ball, and so I was happy though ending it. But this season, that home run record, that got me into playing, which I'd already started wrestling by then. So baseball had already moved to the side, but I had fun that next summer, and that's all that matters. I knew I wasn't going to be a damn pro, but I can honestly say Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa's home run race got me back into baseball the next season, which is all. That's all you want from baseball is to get more kids in the youth leagues. That's what I'm.
And that's what would do it. If you brought it back to make it a little fun, I
think it's coming. Which I think Leighton said he's gonna go on a rant about the MLB here in a little bit. So I'm going to forecast right now, hot take, 2-3 years from now, some big bitch is going to be hitting some dingers.
I'm all for it, dude. I want Ronnie Coleman standing in the box hitting it out of left field, dude. No, so this documentary, this thing hit me in a number of different ways because if nobody knew this about me, I am the biggest Sammy Sosa fan you'll find on the face of this earth. I'm not kidding. Whenever I was a kid, I had the Sammy Sosa jersey. I have hats still that say Sammy Sosa. Whenever I would hit the ball, dude, I would do the hop. I did the hop as a kid, dude, hitting off the tee.
You didn't take it as far as the fingers?
No, always wore a number 21. Everything I did. Sammy Sosa, him, and Walter Payton are my two favorite athletes in the history of the world. So Sammy Sosa, it was cool to be a Sammy Sosa fan growing up. Everybody thought that Sammy was the man. Everybody knew that he was just this kind of quirky, fun-loving guy who was just out there hitting massive home runs, sprinting to his position. He was from the Dominican Republic, but he loved America as much as the next red-blooded American. Like, he checked every single box of mine as a kid growing up being a fan. In fact, the 1998 baseball season, I remember that as a 4-year-old kid. I don't remember anything about the Chicago Bulls. I don't remember Jordan playing for the Bulls. I don't know anything about that season. I had no idea. But what I did know is Sammy Sosa was out there playing right field for the Chicago Cubs. And I was watching. Dude, I watched more baseball probably in the career of Sammy Sosa than I have since Sammy Sosa left the team. I'm telling you, I did not miss a game whenever he was playing. The whole first year of my baseball life, I thought that the Harry Carey patch was just part of the uniform because I didn't watch baseball prior to that, but I got big into it. And my two favorite Sammy Sosa things, they actually hit on both of them. Sammy Sosa running out into the field carrying the American flag. That's my number one. My number two is whenever he acted like he couldn't speak English whenever he was sitting trial for the steroids.
Oh, is that what happened? I saw the dude reading his statement for him.
Yes, dude. Such a savvy guy.
That's lawyer work 101.
Dude.
You're from another country? You can't speak a word. You don't know nothing.
He didn't want him to get trapped. And Sammy was a fun guy. And he was always fun. It didn't matter what he was doing. They showed the clips of him sitting out in the outfield wearing the glasses, having fun, always joking around with people. Even Mark McGwire's son was wanting Sammy Sosa autographed stuff because Sammy Sosa was that cool. being a Sammy Sosa fan after 2003, whenever the cork bat came out, like, dude, I almost got in like 10 fights on the playground in my life. 9 were because people were laughing, talking about the Cubs being corkers.
That was wild. I remember the cork bat thing. To me, that's weirder than the steroid.
Oh,
that
by
was
far.
just an era of dudes taking supplements and getting jacked, and like they even said there was no really a rule against it.
No, there was not.
So again, we're working with, I wrote some notes down. We're kind of working in one of those superstition in baseball things. You heard Maris Jr.'s, Roger Maris' son saying the dog days of summer, and then you had Big Mac talking about the baseball gods striking you down. To me, that's what this is. It's America's game. It's just got this weird, we don't care if our NFL players look like choo-choo trains and can run people over, but we give a shit if our dude can hit a ball 450 yards. What the hell?
And Sammy Sosa, whenever he got in trouble for the cork
Or
bat,
feet, I'm sorry.
he said it was accidental. He grabbed his show bat. He put on a show. He put on a show in that 1998 season. I don't care if the bat was corked. What did he do? Put on a show. That's your show bat. Grab that thing every time you come up to bat.
Man.
I
never understood the wooden bat. Anyways, look, little kids right now are batting with like 10 grand bats that can only hit like pop up flies. Anyways, give those son bitches those things.
Dude.
I want to see them go past the Golden Gate Bridge.
Well, they ended up modifying those bats because people were getting hurt. In the College World Series, they were using those bats, those like super hot ones,
Yeah.
and they had to quit because the games would be like 17-15. It was just like it would just be a home run derby. And
Yeah.
like it was cool, but if you give like, let's say Barry Bonds stepping up to plate, Mark McGwire stepping up to plate, you throw one inside with a bat like that, you're gonna get somebody killed.
Dude, Pujols and McGuire would have hit that to Illinois. It'd cross the river.
Oh, it would easily cross the river.
Have you ever seen the baseball tournament with Diamondbacks? It was a triple deck. It was a triple deck. That was on through the roof. Like,
Yeah.
That's so nice about that.
No.
Can you imagine a foul down like third base line with one of those? Zoom!
My last year of playing Little League Baseball, we used those super hot bats, and dude, I could rip them. And like, you didn't even have to make good contact, and the ball would fly. You know, you'd hit it over the fence almost every time. Whenever I came back, and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the bats are different," I grabbed that bat, dude. I loaded up. I hit it as hard as I could. It was like hitting a wooden bat.
Start floop.
They modified the technology in the aluminum bats to make them as close to wooden bats as they
as
could.
possible.
I heard a certain high school program with several probably taking all the tops of bats and set it out the protective sleeve.
Yes, that
with
keeps the
top
bat.
back on it. I've heard
Yes.
that's happened several times.
Yeah,
You know,
I never played on one of those teams.
Tito Ortiz, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
No, that was honestly Sammy's motto. Did you catch Sammy at the end? But by the way, I think this documentary, what I was getting at earlier, I think this documentary is going to make it like a little bit cool to be a Sammy Sosa fan again, and I'm happy for her because everybody thought that he was just like this weird guy, especially if you don't remember the early Sammy Sosa thing. They thought he was weird. They kind of thought he was an outcast, but like I think this is going to bring it back, and everybody sees him with Mark McGwire, who honestly, Mark McGwire's a pretty relatable dude. I mean, other than the fact that him being a massive human being, like the way that he talks, he's just like, I want people to leave me alone. I don't want to be, you know, I don't want
thought
to be
that
in the
was
limelight.
cool how they contrasted that
With Sammy.
Sammy just being so happy, and it could be from their upbringings. You know, Sammy, he said he was a damn shoe shiner and grew up poor as shit. Comes in the league at 17, and then you got McGwire, who just a normal guy, normal family, went to college, and this and that. It's weird how, and this happens with a lot of the celebrities and other people, but it's weird how that, to Sammy it was fun as hell. It wasn't stressful a bit, not a bit. But McGwire, he's talking
playing.
about how he's like just hating it, I thought that was cool. I thought, I obviously, because where we live, my family watched it. We were watching it for the home run race, but everybody around here is a Cardinals fan. Not everybody, but 99% of people. Then you got you 1%ers that are Cubs fans who are trying to fist fight everybody on the playground instead of just being like, oh, okay, whatever. But we watched it for Big Mac, so I didn't know much about Sosa before this documentary. So for me, it was pretty informative. I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't know how good of a player that one season. They said he had 30 stolen bases and 30 home runs in the same year. Like, both these dudes
great.
could play ball.
Yeah.
Both these dudes could play a hell of ball. I don't know why I just said hella.
I liked it though. I like it.
That came out of nowhere. That's not in my lexicon. Where'd that come from?
I like that.
I do want Leighton to tell us his. He texted. He's like, my dad went to the 60 home run game and he got thrown out in the first inning. I sure as shit thought you meant your dad.
Oh.
Because that's what you said he got.
You went to that game?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that till, well, I knew my dad went to, he told me the story that.
He probably spent $200 on your ticket and you don't even remember.
He told me the story how McGuire actually, sure about that, McGuire found the first inning of that game and like threw on with and stuff, but found out today told me that at the game too. That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
That is bad. I no shit. Because when you sent in that text thread, I put, man, he must have been yelling like hard. And I was thinking, how close were they to the field that your dad was going bananas? And how did he have so many beers in the first inning that he got bounced out?
That's what you call a good warm up.
Yeah, and then I'm watching the show, and then you message, you're like, that's the game he was at. And I was like, oh, McGuire got thrown out.
No, that's hilarious.
But Drake came out how his first baseball with Sammy Sosa. Didn't know anything all about that year of life, just that. I don't know, same season, different game, obviously. I had a game, and I need one player, multiple, that was it. Baseball number 25, met high to 25, like the two Cub fans. That's 21 number Cub fans, we're all like 6. He was Sammy Sosa.
Sammy Sosa was the GOAT.
But I was in the game, and I remember this part there, way there. He was Trent Nile played for some reason. And my dad and my close friend were real pissed off about it. And remember that. There's always from that whole call out that made me mad. We got there, we got hit 2 home runs. And being this little, I thought the ball went out of the whole stadium. Because that's how high he hit the figure ball that I, being 5, would have lost it and thought that was the entire stadium.
No, dude. Whenever they hit the ball, it looks like the ball is going out of the stadium. Those two specifically, because and especially Big Mac, dude. There's a reason they call it Big Mac Land, and like nobody else reaches it today. Very good documentary. Sammy Sosa was the first guy that whenever I was like a kid, I was watching him. I'm like, dude, this guy. I don't know why he's so excited to run out there to right field. You've seen it where Sammy Sosa grabs his glove, sprints to his position as fast as he can.
We just said that's the worst position in the hole.
Well, as a kid, I never understood why somebody was so excited to get to right field. I was like, dude, I hate playing right field. Like, what's he doing? Just so excited to get out there. But it was just awesome. Awesome. I'm glad that it brought back to the positive limelight. Sammy Sosa, hopefully he gets to go back to Wrigley. This has been an ongoing thing since he's basically left.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was another thing you missed if you didn't catch the end of it.
I knew about that.
Okay. Yeah, I said he hasn't been there since he left the team.
I was talking to Cappy.
Is it
Cappy had no
01
idea
or something?
He wasn't allowed
Come
back.
on, Cubs. What the hell?
No,
I once watched a video on YouTube of a guy doing like a 200-meter slide through the pissers at your stadium. Let Sammy back in.
No, I absolutely agree. There's some terrible things that go on at Wrigley Field. It's a good party for everybody.
There's some terrible things.
But I do think I think they have to bring Sammy back. I think that this is the perfect opportunity. In the Cubs, they basically said if you come clean, you can come back. Why?
Why
does it
would
matter?
he? Maybe you guys can fill me in on this.
Did he do anything wrong?
So
No.
you guys didn't watch the documentary Screwball. I told you bastards to watch it. It's one of the best documentaries ever. It's focused on A-Rod, but I told you guys to watch it. You said you never did with the little kids.
Yeah. It was on Netflix?
Yeah.
it's good.
Okay. You haven't seen
I
it
haven't
though,
seen
right? It was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was funny.
This is a little flight, by the way. How long?
So they did a drug test on these guys, but told them it would never come out. And so some of these guys did it, and then it came out.
Then this report.
So do they know the names of the people?
Yes.
So they know the names of the people. Do they know the results of the tests?
It must have been on everything.
I thought that they had like 107 guys of like the 200 that they randomly tested pop positive.
So
Yeah. It must have been that they know every name, and no one just released, if you got leaked or whatever.
okay, well that's what Sammy. Okay, so that makes sense. It had to be
How's that
just
not illegal?
it had to be just a few got leaked because that's what Sammy said in the end of this. When they were asking me, he said, "Why should I complain?" There was 106. I think he said this may be verbatim. There was 106 people's names on there, there was a list of 106 players and 5 or 6. Like, why do I have to be one of the ones? So it must have only been like a handful of guys came off that 100, and it had to be like A-Rod, McGuire. Didn't Rafael Palmeiro, wasn't he one of them?
Jose Canseco.
How many? I guess my other question is, how many people play in the league? How many people are to a team?
Oh my goodness, dude.
Counting the 40 game losses, just in major league.
Just in the majors.
25 times 30.
Yeah, 25 times 30.
Now it's 26 times 30 starting this year, that season.
So I can't do that math.
600 and.
So they tested like.
80?
I don't know what the percentage of that be. So they won the 2/5 of the league, or one. They tested a major
Yes.
If they so say they did 200 players out of 750, and 106 of them popped positive.
Half the league was on the sauce.
You don't think at least half the league was?
I think if you were all-star veteran at that time, you had to have been.
I mean, and that's always the suspicion that's going to be on there anyway. So I don't know why you single out and shit on these. To me, it all goes back to that. This is America's game. Babe and Maris wasn't on anything, and
is that all the baseball writers that vote for this, they're all super old. So you're going to basically, you have to have. And it's going to be bad because the guys who will vote in, the steroid era guys, are the younger group, and that younger group isn't going to be able to vote until people basically die off.
90 years,
and then by that time they're going to be wiped off the ballot.
There was, and I have another thing. I took some notes on this. I've got to bring this up here in a minute. But who was it? Who was the guy at the very end who he's a famous guy. He's got a deep voice. It wasn't one of the Bucks, but at the end he's like, to
Mike
me,
Shannon?
maybe I wish.
He lives over at Lake of Egypt.
Does he?
Yeah, he plays golf in town all the time.
No, that's not who it was. Give me 2 seconds.
It's true.
Give me 2 seconds. I'll look it up. But he said he like definitively said anybody that played in that era.
Bob Costas.
Yep. That's it. He says anybody that played in that era, to me, or anybody in that area that did that or whatever, to me, those juiced up guys will always like have this thing on them. Screw him, man.
Mm-hmm.
Screw him. Like no, that's not how it goes. You were one of the nut riders that were watching Bud Selig. All those guys, all those riders are just like, oh, this saved the sport. It was so great. You couldn't believe it. They were selling out. See, it saved the season. Oh, but those guys did that. You knew that whole time. Don't give me that dumb.
You never had more enjoyment in baseball than watching that season. And just because they were on the sauce doesn't take away any of the feelings that you felt. And they hit on that perfectly in this documentary at the very end. They even said that. They're like, just because this happened, it doesn't take away anything that happened.
Yeah.
Just because these guys were on these supplements that weren't deemed illegal yet doesn't take away how it made you feel. And for Bob Costas to be one of the guys who was probably writing story after story after story.
You know it.
He created content for those guys. Created content for Bob Costas for 7+ years, and then he just throws them out.
And then he's just like, "Oh, these guys are shit."
And even today, well, even back in the past, where we had the Bulls like Bucks only and stuff, and John Hyman said like, you admit like they knew it was happening or they saw it happening, but they either one didn't understand enough to care, or they just didn't care how fun to watch. Even this morning, Dan Patrick on his show today, he saw it happening. He knew that, and he saw it all, but he just didn't care because of how fun it was to watch. And then once it came out, just natural, just how the media worked, that one person reports on it, and everybody has to report on it the same way. Positive, negative, that's the truth about it.
Don't bring that shit here.
I have an actual kind of competing argument with that. I think that if the steroids would have continued and been creating them content for the like if they would have had the same amount of content that they had in 1998 to write about as they did right whenever all this stuff started coming out, like 2005, 2006, in that era there, if the guys were still riding the juice and they were still hitting balls to the moon, still just making baseball unbelievably fun, they would have not written those stories about the steroids because they didn't want the good times to come to an end. But since they had already came to an end, they felt like they just had blood in the water, and we can go ahead and attack these guys. They can't defend themselves. Nobody's going to be on this stuff anymore because we're testing at a very high clip for it now. So now we kill them.
Yeah.
Now we write our content. And that's dirty.
Yeah.
That's dirty.
So you said something about, I got to say this. I don't know if we have a lot of Cardinals listeners. Mike Shannon, worst announcer on earth.
He always sounds like he took a big old bite of bad to eat.
To me, it ain't even his voice. Again, where we live is Cardinals Nation. This is Cardinals Nation.
I believe red. 12 and 12. 12
I love listening to baseball games on the radio. The problem is, all I get is Cardinals Nation. So I got to listen to Mike Shannon just shit on the other team.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just want to hear a call. Prince Fielder singles out. Mike Trout pop up fly. When you listen to Mike Shannon call a game, it's obviously the Cardinals versus someone. He's generally shitting on whatever. Oh, it's up. Oh, they caught it in the outfield. That's 2 outs to the Cardinals. I hate it. I just want to hear a game called like it. Imagine if you watch the NBA. Imagine if you watch the NBA and Bill Walton or whoever is announcing or Charles Barkley is like, man, the Suns are going against the Spurs tonight. Oh, the Spurs suck balls. Like that's basically what we're doing. Like, just call the game. I can't stand it. I can't stand Mike Shannon.
No, I absolutely
It pissed
agree
me
with
off when they popped him up. I was like, get Mike Shannon out of here. That was the only thing I didn't like about it. I'm going to give it an A+ for me.
I did enjoy it. I think that I could have gotten some more guys from the day. I think the only dude that I got that I like because as soon as the documentary opened up, they threw Ray Langford on there. And I was watching it with Cappy, and I told him, I said, dude, we're going to see some names on here that are
Brian Jordan, I saw on there, Langford.
But they didn't have that many. I was expecting like a Mark Grace. And I was expecting some of those like old school Cubs to be on there, and it just didn't happen. And I was kind of bummed. I also wished we'd gotten a little like old school like Dusty Baker on there maybe, who was like there at the very tail end of the whole Sosa thing. But I guess since it was the 1998 season is what they specified, they had to just go with the players from there.
I also didn't know that the Cardinals weren't any good that year. I just assumed they were badass.
Well, they wrote this thing on a wild card team that had to play a 163rd game to even make it into the playoffs, and a team that missed the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's how big of a deal this was.
Hey, the Cubs celebrated like his World Series. They did show that at the end also, where that was like kind of, I guess, to wrap my feelings up on it. At the very end, they said they told Sammy's in the dugout. They just won the game. They're a wild card team. They tell Sammy, hey, you end this season with 66 home runs. McGwire got, was it 70? McGwire got 70. So you come in second in the home run race. And he said, hey, Mark McGwire is the man. I'm number 2. They got to come through me to get to him. I'm just happy we're in the playoff. Dude, I'm a big Sosa fan. I didn't even know the dude, but I mean, I knew who Sammy Sosa was, but I didn't know much about him. But that
he even called Mark McGwire. He said he's the king of home runs.
Yes, yeah. I thought they ended it very cool. To me, you were talking about the Last Dance. To me, Last Dance is number 1. Really, I think I'm gonna throw this baseball one before the Bruce Lee one, and I love the Bruce Lee one. I love Bruce Lee. Me and Leighton been texting back and forth about it this week. I don't know if you watched it.
Not
but
yet.
For me, I got Last Dance. I got the Long Lost Season, the Long Lost Summer. Then you got the Bruce Lee, and I honestly don't think I'll finish Lance.
No,
I don't know if that can get a. I don't know if you have to do it on a grade scale, what you'll give it, but I've pretty much seen all I needed to see there.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely terrible. No, I was very happy overall. I love that Sammy got brought to light, and everybody kind of looked at him in a different view than what they've seen just basically since 2004. I was happy about that. And if you watch this documentary and you come away thinking still that Sammy Sosa's like this bad guy, you just got problems,
What's going? Look at your life.
Yeah,
what's wrong with your life?
What's going on with you? Because Sammy Sosa's just this guy that wants to be loved. That's really what it is. And people love the home runs. And they said the same thing about Mark McGwire. He realized how much people loved watching him hit the ball out of the ballpark. He brought enjoyment to us all. Both those guys did. Cub or Cardinal fan.
I wish he would have stayed with being a pitcher, though. Imagine a pitcher that goes out there and dots 70.
That'd been cool because then Sammy Sosa would have held the record. No, those guys, if it wasn't for the other one, there's no way they'd have hit as many home runs as they did. Because in the middle of games, like they'd be looking over at the dugout and they'd be like, "Oh, he got 62," and then they would come back in their next at bat, and then they'd hit a dinger. Like crazy to think about. I thought the craziest thing that I learned was that Sammy led for exactly 0 days.
Every day he got the lead.
He led for 0 days. He never actually had the sole lead in home runs for a single night.
So every time
for one game, but
later in that game, right? Yeah. Okay, man, that's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
So when the Cardinals, when Pujols and
that's another steroid era guy, dude. Like he was in there with them, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. They're going to escort him into the Hall of Fame in a bright red Camaro with Fred Bird, right?
Those guys. There's been very few times in my life where I watched baseball and you could watch a player or a team and just know that it's going to be a home run, and to me that was Mark McGwire and Pujols, which I didn't watch a lot of Sammy because obviously Cardinals Nation, Mike Shannon, but just those guys, man, you just clicked on. I remember when the Cardinals were having those insane years, which the one year Boston beat their ass in the World Series, and I couldn't believe. I watched. I remember clicking on day games at work and just being like, "Hey, Pujols was up in like 2 batters, and we all hustle in there. He'd hit a dinger, and we'd go on about the rest of our day," type thing. Man, it made me enjoy baseball, which Leighton will tell us later is not going to happen.
So basically, we're segueing in all of this long gone summer into Leighton Seek to complain about the MLB. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so my manager said last Wednesday, an interview, that's only, it's on ESPN Mitchell's podcast. Still up. You can go ahead and I wanted to.
100%.
100%. Baseball is happening this season. He said today, 5 days later, 3 work days later,
3 work days. They ain't working on the weekend for sure.
No.
Working for the weekend.
That he see it not happening.
He can see it not happening.
Yeah. What happened in the past 2 days besides the players telling you they weren't going to propose or do a kind of proposal and demand to have an answer today? What did you come back with? Not an answer. You said, well, we probably won't have a season. Or it's possible we won't have a season, something like that. It was like, no. Like,
what?
This is such a mess.
Let me give you a question, okay? What plus 100 equals 100%?
0.
0 plus 100.
Yeah.
For him to say 100% that they're going to have a season, that implies that there's 0% chance that they will not have a season.
Yeah.
And now he says he can see that it will not happen?
Mm-hmm.
That just means that they're trending down that path now.
Yeah.
We are going down that path. There will not be a baseball season.
Yeah, literally until yesterday, Saturday, when I got that report, they were not kind of proposal. I honestly thought today they're just gonna, or
They can't strike.
they're either going to accept it, or they're going to propose 64 games that was going to be on there and be fine. But no, how about last week? They were going to keep your proposal, put a proposal until it got down to it had to be 52 games or 48 games, whatever it had to be. And Rob Manfred said, you know what, fine, for the next 2 weeks, I think it won't be a season. So either you play it and commit now before I think day was July 5th or 8th, something like that. Commit now, be ready for the season, or we'll do July 8th and be ready to play 52 games. And it's a scary tactic, it's a full negotiating strategy, and the CBA is that 2 seasons they guarantee the strike again.
No, he must have read The Art of the Deal.
And Max Clark had an OPA, and Max was the head, not the head guy, but probably the head guy of the Players Association, played part of it. There's no way to play this season.
Yes.
Because that is disrespectful to the players to tell them, we're not going to put another thing, you either do what we want to do, or you're not going to pay this season. So, the players now know, well, we'll just say, fuck it. I had $1 million last season. I didn't want to play this year. And it'll be then signing guys like Thomas to play, and who's gonna watch that?
Me.
People would.
Hey, people would watch a guy that looks like me play ball, baby.
That's the thing. I would love those players.
If they have scab tryouts, you best believe I will be there. No, I'm dead serious. I am going. Full camera crew.
Full camera crew.
If they have pitching plays, at least for the first 10 games before they hit or pitch anything, I'm gonna love those players.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna watch it, but MLB would get in 60 games with playoff money.
Dude, honest to God, I think the MLB would have better ratings if they did have just guys. This year.
10 or so games they would.
I think we would. Dude, could you imagine the spectacle that would be around this?
Think of the Little League World Series. Think of the Little League World Series. Think of the Little League World Series
With adults.
with guys that basically have the same mentality, except they've lost all their hopes and dreams, and they're in their mid-20s to late.
2.5
If anybody managed to hit it to the track, someone might have a heart attack.
I say aluminum bats, old school.
No, then you're talking about murdering
I
people.
want 2008 Easton Stealth in my hands. I'm gonna hit one out of. I'll hit one out of the ballpark at Busch Stadium.
But no, you just said that in spectacle. But not being spectacle, I think baseball is failing and how they said it would not look. Like I said, about 10 games, maybe less, and you walk through, it'd be funny, it'd be cool. But then it'll wear off a little bit. You're like, wow, it's 1-0 in the 11th inning.
1-0.
No.
Dude, these would be like 30 to 35 baseball games.
There'd be so many errors.
Yeah,
There'd be all you really need is each. It would be like my daughter's Little League team. You just need someone to get it across the plate. If you could find 35 men in this country that can put a ball across the plate.
We've got a baseball season.
We've got 30 to 30 games.
Okay.
You may have to move the mound up some though. Ain't nobody throwing that far that's not played some sort of baseball.
What you hear the old adage: good hitting beats good, or good pitching beats good hitting.
Yeah.
What happens when they're both bad? When they're both bad, we will find out. And I'm telling you, I would be in. I'd be in. I'm gonna go try out if I can.
If Bob Andrews said the season was 100% last week, and now he's saying he's probably.
I can see it not happening.
It's probable that it will happen to well below 50. I'm gonna say I give it like a 2% chance to see the play.
Yeah.
It means actually a 78% chance it happens.
No, I think we've got like I'm saying 10% chance we see baseball this season. Because, dude, every week we talk about the same thing about them, like, oh, counteroffer, offer, counteroffer, offer, counteroffer. Well, now there's no counteroffer. Where do we go from here? We're just sitting on our hands, and the owners are saying, you have Rob Manfred sit down and say 100% is going to happen. You know why he says that? Because then the ball is out of his hands. The ball is out of his hands, and it immediately puts all the pressure on the players. Because, hey, the big man upstairs said 100% chance that there's going to be a season this year. They're willing to do anything that we want them to do in order to make that happen. But the bad thing is, they really aren't. He's just telling it on Buster Olney's podcast and fooling the whole entire world. And all that's going to do is just make the players mad, drive them away. Ain't happening. I guarantee we do not have one. And that is sad.
Yeah, who would have thought Bob Manfred would be more just like, it's fast Bud Selig. Bud Selig at the time when he retired, definitely is out. Not third, you're probably going to was first. But he's probably second or third when he commissioner at the time. Because Panda people want to get the NHL guy. I don't know his name him, but I always get him pretty good about it.
Yeah.
And
I don't know shit about the
2.5 years, not even 2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years. Bob Manfred might be winning like he's supposed to be hell.
No, he's quickly on that plane. He's quickly on that plane. I think that we need to do replacement players. Each team is sponsored by a supplement company, and then we just let it go crazy. And we see what these middle-aged men can do past their prime.
I've always been waiting to take HGH, man. Look, the Cards called me up right now. I'll do as much HGH as they want. My voice will get squeaky again.
Come with me to Chicago and we can get Balco to sign one for us.
Yeah, I'd rather play for Chicago, to be honest.
If they have Balco, we'll take them up. What do they got?
I've had a lot better times in Chicago than I have St. Louis. The food's better. The entertainment's better. Yeah, I'd rather go to Chicago.
Yeah, I'm all aboard. I'm all aboard. Unless they station a team in New Orleans, I am going to Chicago. Oh, man, baseball.
Can't get it right.
No, cannot get it right. Whenever they have good things in their hands, man, they just let it slip through their fingers. We're just going to... Hey, you know what's crazy?
And no, that's the starting like hockey playoffs start soon after that.
Hockey's going to start the week before baseball. They're just going to make sure that they get it out.
Yeah,
or basketball.
Yeah, baseball's like June 15th.
Yeah.
these already have open.
Yeah, no.
Go fast. They have to do something.
They absolutely have to do something. Otherwise, this is going to be bad. I did see. So you remember that report that came out a few years ago that the MLB's average fan base age was 50 years old, that's high. That's very high.
Unbelievably high.
Their number was 58, and I think this was 10 years ago, or it was 50. I think it was 10 years ago. Whenever they ran the numbers, the average age was 50. Right now, 57.
Really?
It's went up. That average age has went up for fans. So that means that they're not accruing any new fans. Any young fans are not watching baseball. Because in 10 years, that number increases by 7. That means that you're picking up virtually no new fans.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think about.
Really
Very, very
It's
bad.
not helping because now, with the MLB season, it'll be much as bad.
No, the younger people need stimulated, and if you don't stimulate them for a whole entire season with baseball, you're going to lose them. And those people are going to go to hockey. Those people are going to go to soccer. We don't need that happening. America's pastime. Bring it back. Cardinals Nation needs you. All right, so on to the fights this last weekend. Mr. Shackelford?
Blah.
Blah. That's what I thought.
Did you watch them?
I watched every fight.
So
I didn't really remember any fight, really. I mean, there was not. I remember Marvin Vittori beating down Carl Roberson.
Every fight was a finish except
Yes.
for 2, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
they were wild. The 2 we lost, it made me sick to my stomach. You got Air Jordan knocks down Feely in the first.
Yes.
Then the second almost looks like he takes a round off. Doesn't get beat down, but at some point he gets taken down. And Andre Feely looked like he was doing a high school tight waist to him, and Jourdain flattened out like Feely was the strongest man on the face of the planet.
Yes.
Apparently, Air Jourdain has 0 wrestling / jiu-jitsu skills.
Dude, those takedowns Feely was shooting were not pretty.
No,
They were not pretty at all.
And then when he got down there, he just flattened out. In the third, I think he's winning the fight. He's landing the harder shots,
Yep, I
the
agree.
cleaner shots, and then what happens?
Gets taken
He
down.
gets taken down like a child.
Yep.
Had I known he couldn't wrestle at all, I would have picked Philly.
I didn't realize that
Feely.
because Feely's not that great of a guy on the ground. Because if he was even like good on the ground, he would have submitted Jourdain. Because Jourdain was that sad on the ground. He just laying around like
he
a
trains at
fish.
Team Alpha Male, but he's known as a striker. The other one, Jessica listen, she missed weight, and there's some weird controversy going on. I guess her coaches messaged Calvillo like 30 minutes before the end of the weigh-in said she's going to miss weight by 3 pounds. I've heard that 15 minutes before she weighed in, she was 4 pounds over. All of a sudden,
What?
they bust out the towel. She's 0.25.
What?
They're saying that she's held onto the towel, and this isn't the first time she's done it. I don't know how they do. You remember DC had that weird thing
Towelgate.
with the towel? I don't know how she's doing it, but they're saying if your coaches are messaging the other girl and telling her you either got 2 problems here. One, you got a bad scale. Your check scale is not the same as your actual scale. 2, she's somehow pinching the towel. I don't know how that's possible.
how you get away with
think
that.
the towel people would just be like, hey, quit pulling on the towel.
Don't touch the towel.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Then she's fighting all night with JoJo Calderwood on Twitter. All night she's back and forth with her on Twitter. Still, I didn't tell you to change your pick. Because why? Calvillo's coming up from 115 pounds. She's not really a strong puncher or kicker. She's not, her takedowns aren't beautiful. The bigger person should be able to keep her off of her. And she did. First round, she's dotting Calvillo up. Can't get a takedown. At the very end of the round, she got a takedown, but no damage done. I give it to I. But at some point in that second, Calvillo realized that she's getting hit with a 1-2 combination. She can't stop it. I's not really coming forward. Calvillo drags her to the ground, and what does I do? She just lets her take her back, and she just holds double wrist control on one arm so she can't get finished.
Right.
That was her whole game plan.
That was the game plan.
That was the rest of the fight.
Get taken down, grab 2 on 1.
Yes, she would punch she would punch Calvillo. Calvillo would get dotted up. Calvillo would drag her to the ground. Not very pretty. Then next thing you know, she's on her back, can't finish her, and you got Jessica. That was the whole fight.
Yep.
Our 2 losses were 2. It was like they didn't know this was mixed martial arts.
No, they
and
forgot.
Jessica, I don't know I don't know where she goes from here. She left her team in Ohio, which was Stipe's team. She's kind of one of these people that makes a big deal about things. She made a big deal that she left this team environment to go focus on herself in Vegas. I could hear some of the corner advice they were giving her, and it mostly just sounded like, look, and I'm telling you guys, take this with a grain of salt. Every person's different. But they just kept saying, you can do this, Jessica. You can do it. Jessica needed to know you throw a jab, a cross, and an uppercut, and don't stop doing that until the girl falls down. Because anytime she lifted her foot, she got taken down. And once she was down, there was nothing.
Dead.
It was like she didn't know jiu-jitsu at all. Made me sick to watch. I felt bad because I was confident in those 2 picks. So you got a 115-pounder coming up and beating the number 1 contender, 125.
Just wet blanking it.
It just shows you how wacky these women's divisions are. Makes me scared to bet on these people.
No, I agree. Unless the odds are just massively hung, you don't feel confident betting anybody.
There's 2 people I'm confident in betting: Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko.
Exactly.
Everybody else is a toss-up.
Yep, I exactly agree. Because whenever I was watching this fight, I was like, man, this whole card, I felt like, as I was watching the fight, there was... And tell me if you feel the same. There was a huge level discrepancy between the fighters. And it became very apparent very fast.
I think that's where all the finishes.
And you had all these finishes that were really fast. And then the ones where... I really felt like it was there's levels to this thing. Because there was a lot of fights that were just in a blink of an eye, they were done. And then if they weren't in a blink of an eye done, it was basically, hey, one person has spent 1 day in wrestling class and the other person is not. And it's like, it's not like you're watching a Bryce Mitchell just piece apart a Charles Rosa, which Charles Rosa, shout out to him.
Yeah, he got a win.
Shout out to him. I thought he did very good coming back from a demoralizing defeat. But anyways, you're not watching somebody like Bryce Mitchell just run, like transition to transition to transition and just melting a guy below them. It was just like, I'm going to take you down, lay on you, and just kind of dangle some arms over the top. You'll grab one of them, and we'll just chill out until we get put back up on our feet in the next round.
Yeah.
The card was not bad, but I thought it was just it didn't satisfy me as an actual martial arts fan. It satisfied me as I see craziness. It's human cockfighting. It's fun to bet on, but it didn't satisfy me in like even the Carl Roberson versus Marvin Vettori. One of the people I was watching the fight with, they said, are these guys even in the same class? Like, they thought that Carl Roberson was a guy that was a late-minute fill-in.
So Vettori talked about that a little bit. Vettori said, I think this is the second. So Carl Roberson missed weight again by 4.5 pounds. Apparently, the sickness that he had in his last fight was a bad weight cut. He wasn't going to make weight. He got sick. So now we know why Vettori was so pissed. I guess they were maybe supposed to fight at another card that he got pulled. So you got, Vettori went bananas. Robertson didn't have anything for him. I will say this. There was one person on this card, 2 people on this card we got to keep an eye on in their weight divisions. That's that Maria Agapova. Versus Cyphers.
Yes.
She beat her like a drum. That was a huge mismatch, and Cyphers has fought the better competition up until this point. The other one
Cyphers even was piecing up Mackenzie Dern on their feet until she got drugged down and beat.
Yep. The other person we need to watch, Merab. Merab the Machine. He's out of the Longo Sarah camp.
Yep.
He could be a guy, like we said, the only loss I think he's had in the UFC was that really weird Ricky Simon one where he didn't tap, he didn't go to sleep, the ref didn't stop it.
He killed Ricky Simon.
The round ended and he kind of like flopped back. He was saying he was just flopping back to like catch his breath. The ref said he was out. They ended the fight saying Ricky Simon won. So Merab and Agapova, Definitely people to watch. Some other guys got
Agapova's
some.
a girl I'm going to bet whenever she fights again.
Oh, for sure.
I'm gonna bet
she
her.
looked insane.
She was good.
There was a lot of guys that got a lot of quick. That Aguilera, that Tyson Nam, that Avila girl. It was all quick stoppages. Espinoza looked good against De La Rosa. Feely, credit to Feely. He got dropped.
He found out what he
stays
needed
up,
to do.
It was a fun card, but god dang, those two we lost. That
Tough.
almost ruined the card for me.
Yep.
Just seeing the discrepancy, it was like you said, they went to one wrestling class, like, okay, me and this person is just going to duke it out. I'll be okay. Like, no, man.
It pretty rough to watch, honestly. And I'm all for it. If somebody gets taken down and just gets mopped on the ground, and the person who's doing it like looks competent doing it, I'm okay with that. I wasn't okay with those two. All right. So, fights this weekend, UFC Fight Night. This is a free card, and I cannot believe this is a free card. You got Curtis Blades, Alexander Volkov, Josh Emmett, Sam Burgos, Raquel Pennington, Bilal Muhammad, Lyman Good, Roosevelt Roberts, Bobby Green, Clay Guida, Jim Miller, Roxanne Modafferi, and then a former guest of the show, Max Roshkoff, will be making his UFC debut. This is actually a card with two of our former guests. We have Curtis Blades and Max Roshkoff. Obviously, Curtis Blades, he's hoping to win and then fight for a belt. And you have Max Roshkoff, who's dipping his toes in the UFC for the first time ever.
Yep,
So good for him.
This is big. When all this stuff started getting crazy and they were saying they were going to do it at the Apex Center, in the back of my mind, I was like, I think this is going to get him in because he's just dominating everybody.
It's not even fair.
He was in a really I forget the name of it, but it was kind of a cool thing they did on YouTube. It was a no time limit, submission only thing, and they dropped these. I think it was like Shugio. They dropped these 30-minute videos 4 weeks in a row, and he got second place there, won some money. But he had Ethan Creliston. There was a couple big names on there, and he beat Creliston, who's a big name. And then Nathan Orchard was the guy who won. He did lose to Orchard, but it was a very good match. He's an amazing grappler. I didn't know why he wasn't in the UFC to begin with.
No, I agree.
And now he gets his chance.
Well, he's only fought 5 times.
Well, I know, but we've seen. Look, Greg Hardy. I know it's a name thing, but when you got a guy who's a college wrestler who's dominating all these guys, when do you get him in? At some point, there becomes this weird thing where you can't get these fights because these lower pros don't want to fight you because they don't want a loss on their record. I felt like he was headed in that direction.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this. I think he's going to be. I think we give it 2-3 years and we've got a guy competing legitimately in this division.
For sure.
So let's go ahead, and that's not just saying it because he was a guest on the show. I think he's going to go in there and absolutely destroy Austin Hubbard.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. I think that's about as safe as a bet as you're going to get. You're getting a guy nobody really knows about. We'll run through the card, though. We've got Curtis Blades, biggest favorite on the card, minus 365, facing off against Alexander Volkov, who's a plus 275 dog. Mr. Shackelford, Curtis Blades is going to win this fight, right?
Yes. Volkov's gigantic, got a great reach. He's not a one-punch KO guy.
That's the only way you beat Curtis Blades, in my opinion.
Yes, we know that about Blades. The only way you beat him is you punch as hard as Francis.
Yes.
Also, they're in the small cage again at the Apex. Blades is going to be on him like white on rice. I think this could be a TKO for Blades.
Dude,
I'm thinking second, third round TKO.
Watching Curtis Blades fight Junior Dos Santos made me kind of think that Curtis Blades is now in that he's going to be more athletic than almost everybody. He's a better wrestler than almost everybody, but he's now proving points. He's proving that he's a better striker, and I actually agree with you. I think it's going to be a TKO win, whether it's just malicious ground and pound
I think
or
that's
finish
what it's
him on
going
the
to
feet.
be. I think it'll be ground and pound. TKO, probably second round.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Next up, we've got one guy I really like to watch, and Josh Emmett. He is the underdog here. He is a plus 110 dog to Shane Burgos, who's a minus 140 favorite. Mr. Shackelford, Josh Emmett, he's been on a little bit of a hot streak, hasn't he?
He's very tough. His last loss was to It was a KO loss, I think, to Jeremy Stevens.
I think it was Jeremy Stevens.
But since then, he KOs Michael Johnson. He was losing every second of that fight, though. Johnson hits him, he hits Johnson, KOs him in a TKO over Mirsad Bektik. This is a tough pick. I like Burgos here because his variety of attack. He never gets tired. I think he's going to move forward, use his variety of attack to get a win. But check back in with us later this week because I'm going to look at the weigh-in, see if one of them looks worse than the other. Emmett's a guy. One punch is all it takes. Burgos is a guy who gets hit. So we've had fights before where we thought, well, if he's not on it, I'll check back with you guys. Pick right now is Burgos. I may be swayed.
Okay. I wouldn't be mad if you were, man. I do like Josh Emmett. I just want the right pick, though. Next up, we have Raquel Pennington. Opens as a minus 145 favorite to Marion Renault, who is a plus 115 dog. Mr. Shackelford, who do we like here?
I don't want to.
We're not picking her.
I'm not dogging anybody. Go Pennington. This is a fight of some girls who are a little up there in the age range. They don't have necessarily KO power. They're in great shape. Marion Renault is actually a middle school teacher.
I burnt you on picking
I'm done with it. Until I know one is insanely skilled with the other, we will go Pennington because she's fought the harder competition. Renault's a middle school teacher who does this part-time. She's jacked. She's in great shape. She's a babe. I wish she was my middle school teacher. But neither one of them have hey, I can't tell you this one's going to out-wrestle that one, this one's going to knock this one out. Burgos, he can punch hard, he can kick hard, he can do everything, he can wrestle. Emmett, very good wrestler, KO puncher. That one meshes together where it's a hard pick because both guys are so good at polar opposites, you don't know how it's going to mesh. This one, they're the same. They don't hit incredibly hard. They don't wrestle incredibly well. Their jiu-jitsu is not blowing anybody's mind. Go Pennington. She's a perennial contender at these weight classes. Go Pennington.
Okay. Man, there was no excitement in that voice. Next up, we have Bilal Muhammad. This will get you excited.
Yes.
This fight should get you. It should get everybody excited. Bilal Muhammad, minus 150 favorite. To Lyman Good, who's a plus 120 dog. I'm a big Bilal Muhammad guy. I love watching him fight. Very good fighter. I believe he's from Chicago.
Yep.
So what's our pick?
I'm going to go Bilal Muhammad. Like I just discussed, his wrestling is far better than Lyman Good's. Lyman Good is jacked. He's the Incredible Hulk. He hits like a tank. Not the best wrestler.
Yeah.
Bilal Muhammad, also built like a tank, can strike well, but he can also wrestle. He's well-rounded. Go Bilal Muhammad.
Okay, I
got a lot to fight for, man. I know we don't talk about the stuff that's going on in the world. His dad's place got looters and rioters tore the thing to the ground. He tweeted it out like, this place, my dad raised our family on this place for the last 16 years. He's got a lot to fight for this week. I'm confident in Bilal.
Yeah, I think that this is a very safe pick.
Also, one of the few people I've seen pick an entire card top to bottom, perfect.
No kidding?
Yeah, he did.
You were only one away from that one done.
I was. Bilal, though, put it out there to the world, and people were putting up you could have won $48,000.
You could have never fought again.
Yeah, it was insane. So he's a fun Twitter follow. Got a lot to fight for this week. He's the more well-rounded guy. I'm confident in Bilal.
And obviously, he knows avenues for guys to win fights if he can pick fights.
Oh, yeah.
So I like that. Another guy who actually picks a lot of fights right is Curtis Blades.
Does he really?
He does a really good job. And it's always, he'll pick the cards that we do really bad on. He does really good on. But
I wonder if he just knows the people, maybe he knows them a little better.
Yeah,
because those fighters know.
But a lot of his picks are similar to ours, but the ones that we get starched on, he'll do decent on.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Next up, we have Jim Miller, who's taking on Roosevelt Roberts. Roosevelt Roberts is now fighting for the second time in like 3 weeks. We have a lot of guys doing that right now. Roosevelt Roberts, this is a fight of two guys I really like.
Yeah.
Jim Miller, all-time throwback classic guy.
CCR. He's going to come out to CCR, baby.
And nobody loses whenever they come out to CCR. We're all winners. We have Roberts, who is a minus 230 favorite, to Jim Miller, who's a plus 120 dog. Mr. Shackelford, give us a pick.
This feels like one of those trick ones. This feels like the salty dog's going to trick us on this one.
I was about to say, this is a total fight where Roosevelt Roberts comes out, looks good in the first round. Jim Miller tweaks a little bit of stuff. Second, third round, Jim Miller.
Yeah, dude, this to me is the toughest one to pick on the card. I've got some that are stay away from, don't pick whatsoever. This one is of the ones that we're going to pick. This is one I'm going to hedge us on. If you're a straight up guy, you just want that dog, you're going to bet a couple bucks, go Jim Miller. Because I could see Jim Miller sitting there in a
snatching his neck
stance, kicking that lower leg. He's very good at that lower leg kick with the power inside knee from a southpaw stance, swinging that big right hook, and then when Roosevelt has to crash in, I could see Miller out grappling him.
No,
Miller doesn't get. You remember he just choked out Clay Guida.
That's what I was getting to say. He's going to snatch his neck up on one of those, because Roosevelt Roberts, he's one of those. If he gets in any trouble, he just like kind of just shoots in,
barrels in,
and he'll run you right into the fence, drag you down. You do that against Jim Miller,
he's going to snatch your neck.
He's going to snatch it up.
He's going to snatch your neck. And we talked about that for him versus Guida. I didn't know who to pick. I said, I don't know if Guida's going to take him down and just monkey man pound him for 3 rounds, or if Miller's going to sub him. He ended up putting him to sleep. The other thing, though, Roosevelt is much taller. So he could, if he can handle that lower inside leg kick, he could stand on the outside and try and box him up a little. We have seen that happen in Jim Miller before. The problem is Jim Miller, a lot of those fights he lost, a lot of people don't know. He's an avid outdoorsman, believe it or not, Jersey, which if you watch The Sopranos, there's a hilarious episode where Paulie and one of the dudes gets trapped in this wilderness in the snow and they think they're going to die, and Tony has to go like pick him up, and it's a hilarious episode. But he had Lyme disease. He got diagnosed with Lyme disease, and he had this weird period of time where he looked like a world beater, and then he just looked like a shell of himself, and he pretty much contributes that to the Lyme disease.
Wow.
Which is a pretty tough disease if you get it. So we got this area where we got this salty dog who's coming off some wins, who's looked amazing, and then we got this young and up and comer, and we saw Pikel beat Roosevelt just 2 fights ago. So hedge, if you're betting a full card, if you're going on the FanDuel like you guys have, go Roosevelt Roberts.
No, I like Jim Miller.
But if you're just gonna parlay like a Blades and pick one other fight, I do like Jim Miller here.
I'll tell you what, dude. This card's loaded. I think my favorite fights might be 3 in a row here, with Clay Guida, then Jim Miller, then Bilal Muhammad. Like, those are 3 very good.
Those are fun, man.
Those are fun fights. All these guys, they're not in their prime, but they're still salty dogs taking on the young guy, and it's going to be fun fights. Were you wanting to pick the Clay Guida fight or not?
I'm going to go Clay Guida. Bobby Green is too hit or miss. You can't ever depend on him. He does have some tough strikes. He's a well-rounded guy. I think he's got like a Bam Bam Bigelow style head tattoo. I thought it was hair, but then when I looked closer, I was like, man, I think he's got his hair. You know what I'm saying? Like where when you go bald, you tattoo.
I've been thinking about doing flames.
Well, that's Bam Bam Bigelow. You do crazy stuff, but from a distance, it just looks like you have a hairline type thing. Mm-hmm. He is a tough dude. He just hasn't performed well in the UFC. I think Guida just takedown.
Clay Guida is a weird guy to fight, and I don't think a guy who's not like savvy enough, like Bobby Green, is going to come out here and just beat him down. And it's crazy to me because Clay Guida, I didn't give you the odds. Clay Guida is a 190 dog to Bobby Green, who's a minus 2. He's a plus 190 dog to Bobby Green, who's a minus 240 favorite. Some of the biggest odds on the card here. So back-to-back fights. Shackelford gives you a route for both dogs to win here. I don't think Jim Miller Roosevelt Roberts fight, I think I wouldn't touch that in a parlay. Almost either way.
No, yeah.
Because I wouldn't want it to get
Keep
burnt.
that one off. Because I got two more. I got at least one more pick for you I got 2 more picks for you that I'm very confident in, and then one more that's a maybe. So we're going to give you some options.
Okay, next up we have Roxanne Modafferi, who's a minus 125 favorite, to Lauren Murphy, who's a minus 105 dog. This is basically a pick 'em at this point, Mr. Shackelford, but where are we leaning?
I like Roxanne Modafferi. We found not a very good striker, but she can take a lot. She can take anybody down, and she's good on the ground. Lauren Murphy, she's a little bit of a brawler. Sometimes it seems like she doesn't have the best game plans. I'm looking for Roxy to drag her down, maybe pound her out, maybe get a submission, but most likely drag her around over 3 rounds decision.
Okay, I actually like that pick a lot. Next up, I hinted at this fight earlier. This is a fight that I think if you wait until the day of the fight, you are going to get tremendous odds here. You have a guy in Max Roshkoff who is unproven. Hasn't fought in the UFC yet. He's 5-0 outside of the UFC. Was he a Division I All-American, I believe?
I think he had one season where he was an All-American, and then he had some really bad injuries through various seasons type things.
That's what I thought. Wrestled at NC State.
Yeah, NC State, the Wolfpack.
On one of the best NC State teams of all time.
Yeah.
Like a very tough team, and it's very uncommon for a team like NC State to be, outside of the Big Ten, jumping in there with the big dogs. In one of the best wrestling rooms in the country whenever he was there at NC State. So we have Austin Hubbard, who he's a minus 105 dog, slight dog, to Max Roshkoff, who is a minus 135 favorite. Crazy to me that they already see Roshkoff as the favorite here.
I thought for sure that he would be a dog.
Whenever I walked in, you said, how big of a dog is Roshkoff?
I was going to say, bet the mobile home on him.
I agree.
Roshkoff, I think he's going to drag him down, tap him out. He's at one of the best jiu-jitsu. He's a Drysdale jiu-jitsu guy. He trains in Vegas. We've talked to this guy on the phone. Nice guy. Hard worker, great story. I think he's a guy that should have been in the UFC a year ago, but like you said, he's only got 5 fights. He's going to drag this dude down and strangle him unconscious.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think this is the safest bet on the card whenever you look at close odds here.
Yeah.
I expect Roshkoff to be the dog by the time this fight goes live. I mean, dude, we're in the world right now where everybody's betting on the UFC. They're going to go straight to these guys. They're going to be like, look, it's the first fight of the night. The first fight of the night is, I found, one of the most heavy bet cards on the night, because I have people that'll text me. They'll be like, hey, do you have any feelings on this first fight? Everybody wants to see that. Everybody wants to bet on that card, and they bet heavy on it. I think this is a safe bet. First fight of the night. People aren't looking onto these MMA websites. If they do, they're not going to find much on Max Roshkoff. And they're just going to basically give it a Google. Hey, Austin Hubbard has a picture. Max Roshkoff doesn't. Strike against him. This guy has a UFC record. This guy doesn't. I think that we're going to be looking down the barrel of a gun where we're getting Max Roshkoff at plus odds come fight night.
I think so.
All right, what was the last fight that you wanted to pick?
That Tisha Torres fight. This Brianna Van Buren, if I remember her correctly, she's very, very short, pretty stout, hard puncher. I believe I've watched her fight Kaylin Curran.
Yes.
Look, Kaylin Curran's tough. She was supposed to be the next big thing in the UFC. Hasn't panned out so far. She's very young, though. Other than that, I don't know any of the names this girl has fought. Tisha Torres, we know, has hung in there with some of the best in the world.
Tisha Torres is a plus 165 dog to Brianna Van Buren, who's a minus 205 favorite. Some of the bigger odds on the night.
And here's why. Here's her last. Let me just read you off like her last 6 fights. Beats Angela Hill, beats Jocelyn Jones Lybarger, Decision loss to Rose Namajunas. Beats Beck Rawlings. Win over Juliana Lima. Beats Michelle Watterson. Decision loss to Andrade. Decision loss to Joanna. Decision loss to Weili Zhang. Decision loss to Marina Rodriguez. I believe that fight.
That's the murderer's row, dude.
Yes, I thought she won the Rodriguez fight. If I'm not mistaken, I'm looking her up real quick. Rodriguez, I believe, is one of these girls that they think is going to be the next big thing. Let me look at her. Give me 2 seconds, guys.
Hey, you take all the time in the world. When you're giving us good picks,
Rodriguez is 12-0. And she just had a draw with Calvillo, beat Torres, beat Jessica Aguilar, tie with Marcos. So, what I'm getting at here, guys, Tisha Torres is the dog because she's lost 4 of her last fights. She's on a 4-fight skid against Champ Andrade, Champ Joanna, Champ Weili Zhang, and then to a 12-0 girl.
Potential future champ.
Yes. I like Tisha Torres as a dog here.
Dude, I honestly, if you were to power rank
and on
the
your
top
FanDuel,
girls,
you looked at FanDuel earlier, Tisha Torres was like $11. She was the cheapest one.
Yeah, they're giving her away on FanDuel.
Yes.
In fact, I actually have a FanDuel lineup to give you guys because Mr. Shackelford thinks we need to, he's a big financial guy. He said you need to be diversifying your portfolios. So not only are you betting online, you need to be betting on your apps here. Use them all wisely. He's giving you Curtis Blades. You think Curtis Blades? I think he's lock.
Yes, sir.
He's the 1.5 multiplier.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have Curtis Blades as your 1.5 multiplier. You have Clay Guida. You have Bilal Muhammad. You have Shane Burgos, which you said may get messed with, but you like Burgos because Burgos could put this fight to bed.
Emmett can wrestle too. Before he realized he had KO power in his right hand, he could wrestle too. If I was Emmett's corner, I would have him throwing a big Josh Koscheck, big right hand to a double leg, lay down on him. But I don't know, that hasn't been Emmett. He hasn't showed that in the last 4 or 5 fights. Burgos, man, never gets tired. He can punch, he can kick, he can knee. He's got good jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I've got to go with the more well-rounded guy.
All right, so you have Blades as your times 1.5. You have Clay Guida, Bilal Muhammad, Shane Burgos, Tisha Torres, and it hasn't been updated yet, so you're going to have to wait until almost the day of these fights, guys, because FanDuel's a little delayed. Basically, nobody has any odds on Max Roshkoff. I had to look down at D12 for those. Max Roshkoff, put him in there as your 6th fighter. So Blades, Guida, Muhammad, Burgos, Torres, Roshkoff, Blades is your 1.5. I absolutely love that lineup, and I think that we're gonna win some money on this. I'm feeling it. 9-0 on the weekend. 9-0, calling it now. Locks.
I feel good.
All right. So, guys, anything new? Any new movies? Any new television shows? I have been watching Waco. Have you watched that?
I've heard of Waco and not seen it.
I just watched it a couple weeks ago. It's insane.
I'm three shows in.
It's very good.
It is unbelievable.
Very good.
I started it late at night, and it was 12:30, and I'm like, I got to turn this thing off.
Yeah,
I got to go to sleep.
It'll get you. What I liked about Waco is it was a combination of 2 books. It was written by the FBI side and then one of the survivors. Which you may not have figured that out yet. You have to actually watch the credits. I accidentally forgot to hit skip intro on Netflix once, and at the end of the credits I saw it. So I give it an A+, 2 thumbs up.
I'm 3 episodes in, so craziness has been ensuing.
Yeah.
Guys, if you haven't watched it, you have to.
It is when I watched it, I didn't know if you'd be into it. I texted one of my buddies and was like, "Dude, have you seen this?" And he was like, "Yeah, I kind of watched it." And I was like, "Man, I really thought this was
blew me out of the water.
One of the best 5-part or whatever."
And the best, my favorite thing about it is it's 6 shows. It's 6 shows.
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
45 minutes.
In the realm of those, I'm just gonna say 10 and under shows. It's up there. What's the first season of True Detective? It's only 10, 12 episodes or something. It's up there.
10 episodes is maybe the 6. like 10 episodes, 6 to 10, whatever. That's like money.
That's the gold
perfect for me.
standard.
Hey,
for quality content,
Yeah.
it's 8 to 10 episodes.
If you can't get your point across in 6 to 10 episodes, get out of here.
I started watching an anime the other day, which is the only anime I ever got into was Dragon Ball Z. I seen one. I figured I'd try it out. Clicked it on. 13 episodes in, I see there's a part 2. We ain't even kicked anybody's butt yet. We're just still. I'm like, I ain't got time for 32 episodes here. Baki. It started cool, looked cool, jacked dude, gonna have a little martial arts rumble. 13 episodes later, his dad's just now showing up, kidnapping his girlfriend. I'm like, where are these people coming from? Oh, no. Waco, if you guys haven't seen it, must watch.
Yeah, no, I think I will be done with it by this time next week so we can actually kind of dive into it. So if you guys have not watched Waco, watch it because we'll probably spoil it.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
it doesn't, we all know what happened.
yeah,
but.
no, spoiler alert. I'm 3 episodes in and I'm pretty sure they all die. Yeah, it's sad, it's crazy, it's got everything you want, and it's actually, in my opinion, I think Leighton's going to absolutely love this show.
Oh, I think so.
Because it's not one of those things where they just they had a really good topic and a really good storyline, but all the acting was bad. I think the acting is awesome.
I do too.
And it's one of those very few things where I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, dude, these guys are actually really good actors. And I never say that. I never say that.
The one, actually, there's a dude in there from True Detective who I will be scared of this man for the rest of my
FBI
life.
guy?
From True Detective. Not the one that wrote the book, not the communicator guy. He may not be in yet by the third. Are they camped out in front of Waco yet?
They have the camp there. He just
Is the big chubby
the fat guy?
bald guy? Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a loser.
He's got a role in
He's a
True
dork.
Detective that will absolutely curl your toenails.
As I was watching it, I'm like, this is the cop that everybody's been talking about on Twitter that they don't like.
Yes. So that dude's got a scary part in True Detective, but the actual FBI agent, the communicator guy, he's a very good actor.
Dude, he plays the cheesy cop role so good. And he's like, you care if we have an off the record?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what's his name now. David
Koresh.
The actor that does him, insane.
Dude, can that guy win an Oscar?
I don't know.
Dude, no, he's done well.
No, he did.
Thibodeau.
Yeah, Thibodeau, Macaulay Culkin's brother, actually.
What?
Yeah, that's Macaulay Culkin's brother. That's Fuller. Fuller, what's the bed?
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's Fuller when he grew up. Very good show, guys. I will say, have you seen Uncut Gems?
No.
Me and Leighton had this little talk this week. There was 3 movies that were in the running for Oscars this year. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Uncut Gems didn't even get nominated, did it?
With a short list?
Well, no, these are just the ones that I've seen that people were talked about maybe nominated for an Oscar. A matter of fact, was Dolomite. That one didn't get nominated either, did it? So I've seen
people are genuinely upset that they didn't have to release something.
Okay, so Parasite 1, I watched it. It took me an hour and 20 minutes to even get into it. I had to shut it off 3 times. That was your Oscar winner. Whereas Dolomite was an insanely good movie. Uncut Gems, insanely good movie. And then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was another great movie. It did have a slow burn, so you could say the same thing. It took you an hour to get into it. I've heard people say that. But man, I don't think the Oscars got it right this year.
Yeah, Parasite won because kind of like a Game of Thrones, everybody liked and talked about it, and then the millennials people my age got a hold of it and loved it and with it, and it was cool and hip and new because it's from Korea.
Ain't nobody ever watched nothing with subtitles? That was Leighton's thing. Well, you didn't like it because it got subtitles. I just told you I watch anime. You don't think I watch subtitles?
You grew up on subtitles.
Well, no, they did the English version of Dragon Ball Z. I've watched a ton of movies in subtitles. Inglourious Basterds is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's 30% in subtitles. So. No, I have not seen Revenant yet.
Oh, it's good.
Which
this movie. I've seen it twice. Well, 3 times.
There's no subtitles. You just can't understand what he's saying, right?
In theaters, there's subtitles.
Okay.
I got bootleg.
Oh, I was mad.
Yeah.
I was madder than a hornet.
I'm like, well, let's talk about this, basically. Like, talk about 20 minutes. I'm
Was
like,
it? Were they even speaking? I think it was a made-up language, wasn't it?
No, it was Canadian.
Oh, it was. But it's like it's
so
something nobody speaks. So like,
Yeah.
just have them speak. Like I don't question that stuff. It's like, oh, you just traveled all these miles and these people speak the same language. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just give me a good movie.
Yeah, and that was Leo's Oscar winner somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Dude, I'm excited for you to watch Waco.
Watch Waco.
Watch 3 episodes of Waco and then come talk back to me.
I would definitely give it. What's the more is Emmy? That's more of the TV series.
Yeah.
It should get an Emmy for sure. Golden Globes. It should get an Emmy. It's one
They
of
should
the
get Golden Gloves, dude. I thought it kicked a lot of ass.
It's one of the few TV shows I've seen that I think could easily deserve an Oscar.
Yeah.
Especially these last couple episodes.
The last 3 are the best.
I don't want to spoil it. Get back to me next week.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, like, you're gonna watch this, and I hope you have the same reaction as me because you've watched a whole lot more movies than me, and I hope I'm just not blind and just been watching terrible movies. But as I'm watching, I'm like, dude, these people are legit. Like the first episode, and a lot of people are like, oh, it takes you like 4 episodes to get into it. No, by that time you're committed.
Yeah,
this is you turn it on, you start it, and you're like, whoa, like it is good. Yes.
Well, and it also, that first episode brings in Ruby Ridge, which is another thing that happened in the 90s, which I kind of always got into that stuff a little bit. The Ruby Ridge, the Waco, the Jim Jones, the
So you like cults?
Well, what was the other one? The dudes that wore the Nikes, was it Stargate?
What?
There was dudes that wore the Nikes. You remember that?
No, a cult?
It's not funny because let me look it up real quick.
Every cult ends the same way, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, not well.
Let me look. Because it's got a wild name.
I've never heard of this.
They have their own website.
Fun fact: it's Jim Jones, a relative of him. It's either his son or his grandson. Has the same name as him. He actually played at St. Mary's University, the Gales.
Good.
Yep, he's actually a good basketball player.
I played at St. Mary's basketball in town.
Yeah. Well, they said that this Jim Jones, he was a natural born leader. He
Heaven's
was captain of the team.
I'm
No,
sorry.
I don't know about that, but
The Heaven's Gates Colt. I just Googled
I've heard of
90s
this.
Nike shoes Colt. You see that first picture that popped up?
yeah.
Those are forever known as the Colt shoes. You know why? Because of this terrible picture right here. Nike decades worn by the Heaven Gates Colt. This was a Colt where they had to wear a certain type of clothes. They thought when this comet passed over the Earth that it was a UFO spaceship and it was going to take them, but they had to off themselves first. So, in the 90s, we had some wild shit. You had the Ruby Ridge thing, which wasn't really a cult, but then you had Waco. You had the memories of Jim Jones. You had the Heaven Gates people. I know shit when I was a kid. Thought getting into a cult was an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no.
Turns out I'm 35 and I ain't been invited
I've
to
never
one
seen a
yet.
cult
So. Either I'm very unpopular in the cult community or they're just not that common.
No, I really think it's probably that they're just not that common.
Or
you just might not be cool enough to
This
get in.
show went south quick.
Yeah,
Waco's badass. If we get pulled down, we'll have to chop this end off.
If you join a cult, be wary about that.
If you're going to sign on the dotted line for a cult, know all the ins and outs.
Yes.
Just know that there's an out plan
Just
somewhere.
because they're wearing cool Nikes don't mean they're cool people.
No, absolutely not. Actually, whenever I was watching Waco, I was like, wouldn't that be kind of cool to have like a setup like that?
It looked pretty. I mean,
It looked inviting.
Again, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to get to where it gets weird. But at one point, I could certainly see myself chilling out there.
Yeah.
There's a certain point where my man Koresh takes it just a little too far. Just a
Yeah.
little. I couldn't
In the
go
last
into it.
revelation that he had, that he lost a lot of friends.
Yes. Okay, you've made it to
Yes.
the last revelation. His last revelation there, and I couldn't hang with that. I'd have to dip out on that. But
he's taking the burden on for everybody.
yeah, I could do it. I could, whatever.
Anything else before we wrap this show up? I think we're done with Colts.
I think we'll go to the show.
Okay. And on that note, for Drake, for Leighton, and Mr. Shackle, for Dippers, as always, stay saucy.